All right, hey there, folks. So I'm going to show how we can sketch this out and throw some dimensions on it. I'm going to do this part first, just doing a sketch. Basically, we're going to produce this, but I'm going to go through actually doing it. And then I'm actually going to show how to draw it on green paper. We're going to start by looking at this, though. So this is the object that we are going to draw in orthographic, but then dimension. The reason I'm giving it an isometric with the dimensions here and then an orthographic over here is because I just want you guys to focus on the dimensioning aspect. Drawing this in orthographic is going to be a piece of cake for you, but adding the dimensions is what's going to be the new challenge because that's what we're going towards learning. And that's why there's no dimensions on here, because I want you to actually use appropriate dimensioning techniques to get the dimensions to all the places where they should be. So that being said, these dimensions may not be the exact right dimensions that you want to use or in the exact right places, because you're going to have to do some thinking and make sure you follow the rules that we've gone over in class on where dimensions should be. So anyways, though, this video is going to show how to do the sketch. To start out, I'm going to start with a blank piece of paper, right? I just so happen to have this here. I'm going to move this off to the side so I can pull it in when I need it. It's never a bad idea when you're doing a sketch to throw on a loose border, just so you're kind of thinking it's a sketch. The lines don't have to be perfect. It's just sort of the gesture of a border. So we're sort of visualizing every piece of this drawing that we're going to have to do ahead of time. CPP, your name, the class, the date. What is it? The 13th today? Yeah. The scale of this will be 1 inch equals 1 inch. And this one will be, we'll call this bracket. And because this is the kind of first drawing we're doing, I'm going to show you exactly the one that I'm asking you to do in class. In the future, I may make different videos, but it's not going to be the same one that I assigned. So this is what you're going to be given in class. And what I'm about to show you is what I'm expecting you to do first before drawing it on green paper. So, but I really just want to be really clear about this, and I haven't done one like this for this class in a while. So looking at this object, obviously we're going to have to create these shapes here. And actually this is missing, right, like a hidden line that goes down here. So we'll have to throw that in there too. And it's missing the hidden lines for these circles. So we could put a center mark in there too. But let's just sketch for a second. I wanted to show you guys how I sketch these things out. I'm going to just start with that front view. So we definitely know, looking at the isometric, that it's going to be a kind of L shape. Ooh, it's actually a little shorter than that. So you always want to try to, when you're sketching, get these proportions about where they need to be. Yeah, something like that looks pretty good. Let's do this now. Let's project over to get the right side view. We're actually going to just omit the top view just for the sake of simplicity here. So something like about that. We'd see that there. And we're actually, if we look over here just at the isometric, we know we have this bump up in the middle and we have the hole. So I'm going to go like this for the bump up. And now I see, well, okay, and that's where that hidden line is going to come in there in the front view. And then I also need that hole. So let's find the center mark for that first. Always start with the center mark before you go sketching a circle or an arc in. And then we know that it's going to be around there some distance. So I'll sketch in that little circle. And that gives us the top to bring over for hidden lines and the bottom to bring over for some hidden lines. So things are looking good there. Let's make that hidden line look more like a hidden line. Cool. Okay, now we can start adding the dimensions. So thinking about what we learned in class about how to place these things, and you know what, I'm going to zoom this a little bit. That's better. Let it focus for a second. Hello. Okay, perfect. And there. Okay, that's pretty good. So thinking about what we learned in class, can I lock my keypad here? There we go. So we don't have to see that weird menu sometimes. So thinking about what we learned in class, we want to show the dimensions in the view where they basically make the most sense. So in our case, actually, and now that I'm looking at my own dimensions, I actually think I could have done them a little better. We want to try to keep dimensions between views We want to always show the center location of things. And again, we want to show things in the view where they make the most sense, basically where the most shape is seen. So in this case, we definitely want to start showing what I guess based on our views is our width here in this area right here. So I'm going to show the distance from the left side of the object to the back of the object. And taking a look at our isometric here, we know, okay, from the left side to the right side is, let's see, 1 7/8 of an inch. So basically what we're doing is we're planning out where all these dimensions are going to go so that we don't have to think about it when we're actually drawing on the green paper, which is underneath all this. The distance from here to here is about 1 inch. So I'm going to show that right here. And then we could sketch in our arrows. And notice, following the rules that we've talked about in class, there's a gap, a gap, a gap. There should always be a gap between your object line and your extension line. You never want there to be, to have your extension line touching. And our extension line should be thinner and lighter than our object lines. That's why I'm darkening things in here so that they're sort of distinguished. And we even see that actually in the isometric here is these are actually slightly lighter. You'll notice they're more gray than the actual object lines. So let's add more. Okay, so those are some extension lines. Oh, and we do want to remember too that the distances here, the distance between the object and the first dimension, remember we said should be 3/8 of an inch. You won't write these in, I'm just putting them in for reference. And the distance from here to here should be about 1/4 of an inch. Obviously, I'm just sketching this, so it's a little ugly, but when you go to do it on your real drawing, you want to make sure you hit those right distances. So let's keep going. So we just took care of these, okay? We also need to know, let's see, we need to know some details about the overall height. So why don't we put some of these on here so we can tell that the distance from the top to the bottom here is definitely 4¼ inches, but I have to do another one inside of that for this distance. So let's add that on here. And again, I'm doing it in the front view here because we see more shape. So it makes more sense to show that here than it would in the front view because you can see a little more clearly the actual edges that I'm dimensioning to. So that was 4¼ an arrow, 3 inches. And I'm not putting inches after any of these because down here on the bottom, I said that my scale is 1 inch equals an inch. So I don't need to be redundant and I don't need to keep showing that. Cool. So we got some of those taken care of. So what was that? I just took care of these. Now, excuse me, you may be tempted to try to include like the dimension from here to here over here because you've already done that, or the dimension for the whole, but it makes more sense to show those in between these two views. Now, in this case, I might break a little bit of a rule because of the way I drew these so close together, and I could probably put the dimension on the outside, but what I'm going to actually do in a real drawing, we want to try to keep the dimensions between the views as much as possible to keep things nice and consolidated. I'm going to shrink that down so that now I can start putting like dimensions for the size of the location of this hole and other things in the other space over here on the other side. So let's do that. Let's see. We're going to definitely want a dimension from here to here. We want a dimension probably from here to here. Look at, I've already sort of got a line for that. And we want to definitely dimension from, let's say, actually, let's start from the top. So that's a sketch. It's about sort of almost having a conversation with yourself. Like, where do these things go? I have a pencil. I can erase. So maybe I didn't want to do that. I want to go from the top to the center of the hole. Good. So there'll be a dimension in there. From the center of the hole down to this bottom of this surface here. Oh, wait, I've got that already. I don't need to even put that in there. So let's just go from now, when we have the top to the bottom. In fact, I do need to show the distance from here to here. So again, a conversation with yourself. So this distance is 1½ inches there. So I'm going to put 1½ get some arrows in there. And down here, I'm going to do a ½ inch for that distance. And I don't think that's going to fit too well inside there. So we can go like this, 1/2, and then put an arrow in there. and that would be acceptable in this case. Then we've got to dimension this dimension here. So again, it doesn't have to go from here to here if we know that this is centered, which, oh, it's not though, actually. It's 1.5 inches from here to here. So let's make sure we put that in the right spot. So that's going to go 1 and 1/2. And let's see, is there anything else I'm leaving out here? So on the bottom, I'll do the overall 2 7/8. 2 7/8, and I left myself space inside so that I can do this dimension and this dimension. We have 1/2 and 1 7/8. So 1/2, 1 7/8. So those are going to go right in there, and we'll stick a little arrow on the outside of that for the 1/2. And this, oh, I also have to do the leader for the hole. So remember, an arrow or a leader always points towards the center. So I'm going to sort of pretend I'm doing a line out, but I'm only going to darken the part that goes outside here. And that is 1 inch, and it's what we call through. So, diameter 1, THRU, meaning that's a hole that goes all the way through. And now, I do believe that I have all the dimensions I could desire on here. Remember, you're going to leave these off. I was just showing that to remind you of those distances. Oop, I left out an arrow. Yeah, so I think that pretty much encapsulates all the different distances. So there are other ways to do this. Like maybe it would have been better to put this 3 over here so that it was more together with those. But dimensioning is sort of an art, and you will get different ideas of how to dimension things based on just doing it over and over and deciding what looks good and what doesn't look as good. Because remember, the main goal of dimensioning is to communicate details about the object to anyone who's going to look at your drawing. So, all right. So I think that kind of sums this up. Oh, the last thing too is always remember you'd want to calculate the overall size of this base drawing so that you can position it correctly on your green paper from the center of that green paper. So we can calculate that by kind of looking at these overall distances here. And again, these are not dimensions you would include in your drawing. These are just for me to use here while I'm talking to you guys. So from here to here, let's see, that's 1 7/8. This, we're going to leave 1.5 inches between the views, and the overall width of this is, what is it? Did we leave it off here? Oh, no, I included it, but I didn't include arrows. So there's that. So let's see, that's 1 7/8 plus 1 1/2 plus 2 7/8, and that comes out to, you can do the math on your own, 6 1/4 is our overall width, total width. And then let's draw a box around that. So remember, our total height is super easy because it's just the height of the object, and we wrote that right in here. That is 4 1/4. So we know that if we're trying to find this lower left corner from the center of our page here, how far we have to go over and how far we go down, we're going to cut both of these numbers in half. So half of this is 3 1/8, and half of this is, oh, maybe I'm off the screen there, 2 1/8. So our distance over and down would be, let's see, negative 3 1/8 from 0, 0 at the center, and then down to 2 1/8. So, that'd be negative 2. So that would be this point right there. So you know that when you're getting started in your drawing, that is going to be the spot that you're starting at. So hopefully this helps to see how we generally lay out dimensions and how I expect y'all to sketch them. And then later on, I'm going to have a second video here that's going to show how to draw this on the green paper, and that will be coming up shortly here. All right, hey there, folks. So this video is going to show how to draw this object that we see here, which I have shown already. I sketched that out from, where'd it go? From this right here, which is the assignment that you're working on. So this is basically, you should be able to follow along with this if you need to. So I'm going to go through actually drawing out the general shape of this for a minute first. If you don't need that and you understand how to do that, you can skip right ahead to the part where I'm dimensioning this. But I wanted to do that first just in case there is anybody who wanted to see that again, just as a refresher, because it's just been a while since we've done one of these on a piece of paper. So Again, in the description, there'll be a link to skip to the part where I'm dimensioning. So anyways, we're going to start with this point down here, which I already have my center marked out on this piece of paper. It might be a little tricky to see. There we go. If I adjust the brightness, that seems to make it a little better. So let's see, keypad locked, good. So I'm going to start with this point down here, which is 3/8 of an inch over and 3 1/8 over and 2 1/8 down. So I'm going to do that here. So 3 1/8 over right there and 2 1/8 down. Now, normally I yell at people and I say, oh, you got to use your triangle to get that vertical point. When you're just starting out and you're getting this mostly centered, it's not the end of the world if it's not perfectly centered. If it's a tiny bit off, usually people won't even notice, especially with us adding dimensions. So don't overthink that stuff too much here. I am using a 4H pencil to be drawing out and sketching out this early part so that I can make sure that everything is nice and light and easy to erase later if I need to. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to sort of mark out that lower left corner there. And then I'm going to start making these marks across to get my front and right side view blocked in so then I can cut away some material here. So let's see. The overall width of this is 1 7/8. So I'm going to go 1 7/8. Then I'm going to leave 1.5 inches. So there's 1 inch. And then 1, 2, 3, 4/8 for 1/2 inch. So there's my space between the two views. And then 2 7/8. Let's see, I'm going to go over, can I get this right? 1, 2, 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, the reason I didn't move my scale was because every time you move your scale, you actually run the risk of introducing a tiny bit of error. So I'm trying to avoid that. If you move your scale, oh well, we'll figure it out. We'll make it through. But just know that it can introduce a little accuracy errors. So if you can actually count over okay, then you're going to have better luck in the long run. And I'm looking at this now. Well, I guess that's right. Sometimes you end up sketching things and it looks totally different when you actually sketch it. And that's what I'm looking at now. I'm like, this looks like it's going to be a lot different than how I sketched it. So I must have sketched it a little wrong. So we're going to find out. So for the height, I've got 4 1/4. So I'm going to go up 4 1/4 of an inch. 4 1/4. And I am resting this on the T-square, which isn't the best thing in the world, but it'll be okay. 4 1/4. So there's the tops of my views. Yeah, so these are going to be a bit of a different shape than I was expecting, and that's okay. That's what you learn sometimes. All right, from the top, let's see, 3/8 of an inch down. So I've got my general shapes outlined here. 3/8 of an inch down to get this line, and 3 inches down and 1 inch in. So let's throw that on here. So 1 inch in and 3 inches down. Ta-da. Like that. Get us a nice vertical line in here. Oops. I'm running into my projector here. So there's our general shape for that part. Then what else we got here? And there may be a bell that interrupts this. I'll try to cut it out if that's the case, but just FYI, people. So, all right, let's do our right side view now. So we just did the front view. So I know that I have to come up 1/2 inch to get that little doohickey in there, that little opening. So let's get a horizontal line across there lightly. And I also know that I have to come 1/2 inch in for these sort of legs. So we'll do that on each side. Again, I didn't move my scale as much as I could avoid it so that I didn't introduce any error into the drawing, if I could avoid doing so. All right, there's that. And you know what? I'm looking at this. Let me adjust the brightness on this again. Oop, my keypad's locked. Hey, there we go. Ooh, nope, that's not good. That's not what we want. Well, oh, there. Yeah, if I make it darker like that, it's actually, I think it's a little easier to see the lines. So, cool. Let's find the center of that circle. I will be able to project this line over, so I'll do that quick, and then I'll find the center of the circle, which is 1.5 inches in and 1.5 inches down. So first let's project this line over, whoop, and then 1.5 inches in and 1.5 down. Oops, 1.5 in. And then let's get a bit of a vertical line on there. And 1.5 inches down on that. Where'd we go? 1.5 down. And there is the center of our circle. So now we can throw that circle on there. That circle is 1 inch in diameter. So I've got my center mark put on. Let's find a 1 inch circle. Lay that on there lightly with some light construction lines. Get that on there. Beautiful. And let's get some hidden lines up in here. So that's going to be a hidden line. And so is that. I'm not actually going to make those into hidden lines just yet. I'm just projecting them for now. When I go through and I darken everything, that's when I'll make those into all the proper lines. All right, now I'm just going to preliminarily erase some of these because I'm going to come back in and darken everything later. So I didn't need any of that. Didn't need any of that. Good, good, good. Cool. So this is looking a little cleaner already. We can already see the shapes taking form. And you know what? I could get in here and I could turn these into hidden lines now, and then we'll just darken them later. So I'm using my eraser shield as best as I can here to create those hidden lines. Ooh, right there. Ah, better. And these were all hidden lines too. So never forget the power of the eraser shield over here. It can be super helpful for creating nice hidden lines. We'll slide this down. Try to keep those kind of the same. Cool. All right, that's looking pretty good. Clean that up while we're at it, but we're going to darken everything later. All right, now our basic general shape is done. So I'm going to darken this now. I'm going to speed up this part of the video, but I'm still going to record it anyways. And then I like to kind of darken this first before I add the dimensions, just because I think it makes things a little crisper and cleaner. So that's what I'm going to do now. So you can just watch this part. It'll be sped up. All right, awesome. So this looks pretty darn good now. So now it is time for us to start getting those dimensions on there. We already figured out where they're all going to go. So something that you can use to help you a lot is we have said that the distance, and I had sketched this on here originally, the distance between the object and the first dimension should always be 3/8 of an inch, about. And then the distance between any dimensions after that should be 1/4 of an inch. Okay. So that being said, it actually turns out that this distance right here is exactly 3/8 of an inch. You might remember from doing your border and your title block that that's 3/8 of an inch. So we can totally use that to our advantage. We should have also scratched a line onto our triangle that is the same distance as that piece of acrylic on there. So that's going to be able to help us do all of the different things that we need to do to get our dimensions on here appropriately. So looking at this, what I do is I go through and I first lay off all the extension lines that I'm going to need. Then I go through and I lay off all the distances that I'm going to need. And then I go and add in the numbers last. So let's do that here. So I'm just going to pick a spot and start going there. So I'm definitely going to need extensions for these. So actually, let's start with horizontal extension lines just because it's easier. So here, here, here. Let's get those on. So again, not touching the object. They should be far away. And you should use a 2H pencil for this. That's going to give you the best possible line weight. So I'm just going to bring these off of here. I'm going to make sure they're not touching. There should be a visible gap, but I do want to make sure that they're pretty clear. I'm not going to worry about how long they are for now because I can erase a bit later, but I want to leave myself enough room that I can fit all the dimensions I need in there. So there is that one. So let's go like this, and let's actually put the number on there. Well, first we need to get our arrow line in. So this is where this comes in. Okay, you can slide this around until your line, and it's kind of weird because I have all these lights here, they're reflecting funny. You're going to line your line up here with the edge of your object, and then you can draw one of your dimension lines down, and then I'm going to space another one after that. So the rule is 1/4 of an inch, but if you have the room, you can actually go longer than 1/4 of an inch and leave more space between the dimensions, and it's okay. So I'm going to go like this. But actually, that'll leave enough room on the other side for one more set of dimensions. So, yep, we're going to go like that. Let me extend this a tiny bit further. There we go. So I'm going to write in my numbers now. So this is 3 and 1 1/4. I'm going to use this open area on my eraser shield to write inside of so I don't have to use guidelines. So that one's 3, and let's do 4 and 1 with a line over 4. There we go. And then I can come in here and I can darken those dimension lines that I started there. So I'm going to actually make darker lines, and I'm going to make sure I leave a gap around that number. So this one's going to go all the way to the bottom, up to the top. And now I can kind of clean this up. Like, I definitely didn't need that going all the way out that far. I don't need this light line down here anymore. That can go away. And last but not least, I can put my arrowheads onto these. Long and thin. Long and thin. And you really want to make sure you save the arrowheads for last because they're very hard to erase because they're usually a little darker. So, and sometimes you got to go and clean up a line or something too. So let's just fix that little gap that I created. And now we have our first set of dimensions done. So let's just go through one at a time, and we're just going to keep adding more. So at this point, if you think you understand how this is done, you can probably dip out. Oh, you know what? Let me show before you leave. Let me show also how to add the leader over here for the diameter. So I'm going to make sure that I have a line that's going right through the center of that. I'm doing 30 degrees because it's easy. You could pick this up and do it at any angle. Sometimes you have lots of different leaders you have to draw, all coming from the same center point, and you want to do them at different angles so that it's easy to see. So let's draw a leader off of here. We're going to come up about that far. And again, you really want about 3/8 of an inch of space before you go with your horizontal line coming off of that leader. But then I'll do a horizontal line, and then I will put my number in. So that was a diameter of 1, and it says through, THRU. Make sure you are lettering these neatly, and then I will put a little arrow on there. So that's kind of the basic gist of dimensioning. So again, if you get it now, okay, you could probably leave. But if you want to see how I dimension the rest of this stuff, I'm going to do the whole dimension next, and then I'll add in the rest of them. That might be beneficial for you if you so choose to have that. I did do, so you can go now or you can keep watching. So I did do my 2H pencil also when I did my center lines and my hidden lines. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to add this 1.5 inch mark in here, and then the 1/2 inch mark there. So let's draw those extension lines. I need one coming from the top, and I'm going to have some stuff running into each other up here. So I may want to clean things up a bit. I'm going to put a gap back in there because I accidentally got rid of it. Let's see, the bottom here too, my extension lines are a little long. So sometimes things are tight, and this is where you actually may want to leave a little more room between your drawings, but you know, it is what it is here. So let's see, does this fit? Yeah, that's going to be a little tight there too. So this is going to be a little close. So this is maybe not the best example. I needed one off here too. So I maybe should have moved this over a bit, but you know, use a little more foresight than I did and leave a little more room between your drawings. And it actually looks like I think I'm going to be able to do my arrows on the outside of this one. So I'll put my number on the inside and it's going to fit. and I'll have an arrow from here to here. Okay, this one up here was 1.5. 1 over 2. This one down here was 1/2, so I'm going to get 1 line for the fraction, 2 on the bottom, and good. And then we can get our arrows on there. Arrow, arrow. And let's clean this up a little bit and kind of darken that so that it's pretty clear that there's a gap there for the number. We don't have to do that down there because it was spaced off there. So there is that point right there. Let's see, what else we got to add? We got to do these bottom ones. We got to do the hole. I skipped the hole there. Well, I did one of the holes. I got to do the other one up here. So you can see this part of the process is pretty hodgepodge. You're just pretty much checking off all the dimensions that you should have had right on your sketch to begin with. And you're just going through and adding them one at a time and making sure that they're in the right spot and that they follow all of our rules. So again, that visible gap, there should be a gap. It's probably hard to see in the video, but there's a gap right there. With our center line, the gap is really down here. That's how you can think about that when you're using a center line to dimension. Let's draw the dimension line, which is the one that's going to take the arrow. Let's put our number in, 1.5 inches, 1 over 2. Let's darken, just leaving a gap for that number. And then let's add our arrows, long and thin. That was a good one. And finally, erase just a bit of that extension line that was going a little too crazy up above there to clean it up so it looks nice and crisp and clean. There's that one. What else we got? Got to have these up here, and got to have these down here. So let's get those in. Let's start with these up here. Extension lines. One extension line off this. One off of here. One off of the end. Bam, bam, bam. Bring this up. We're going to have something there. We're going to have another one off of that. And so actually I didn't make that extension line long enough. So you come in and correct it. And you just keep going like this until you have everything that you need. So we had a 1 here. 1. And then this overall big distance up here is 7/8. I'm just going to erase so I have a spot to write it. 1 7/8 rather. 1, 7 over 8. Okay. And then we'll clean up again using the eraser shield if necessary, but I don't really feel the need. Darken a bit. And we'll use the eraser shield for this part up here. Arrows. And we can erase that bit in there. So you see how this goes. So I think I'm going to just leave it here. I think this is probably plenty. Well, I'm so close. I have a class starting soon. So I want to, have this all done here, but we'll be hasty and hope I don't make any crazy mistakes. So there's those. There's this one in here. Can he do it? Step off. Let's see. We need this distance, and then we need one more for the overall. So 2 7/8. 2, 7 over 8. This distance is 1 7/8 up here. 1, 7 over 8. And 1/2 for right here. 1 over 2. That was a little small. Darken some things in. I'm going to put these on the outside again for that one. Darken, darken, darken. overall for this one. Clean up a tiny bit. Clean that there and there. And then some arrows. Long and thin. That one was less good. This one was a little better. That one's a little wide. This one was terrible. So, and actually in this case, I didn't really do my extension lines dark enough. So you'll just get a feel for what things will look like. I'll give you feedback. You'll start to understand in time what is a good look and what is a bad look for a dimension. And we do want to try to keep these even. So I'm over here being a little sloppy because I'm getting hasty, but you want to try to keep those little spots where it sticks off even. And I think that is all of our dimensions. So aside from maybe going through and touching up some of these spots, like this dimension, this extension line looks a little dark. Oops, and I don't want it to connect to that side. Leave a gap in there. Aside from touching up some things like that, this is pretty much done now. This is a fully dimensioned, nice drawing. The only criticism I give to myself is I could have spaced these apart a little bit better. And I think that may have helped a little bit. So that's something to think about when you're doing this, is make sure to leave yourself enough space between those views. So hope this helps, and good luck out there, people.